Today's video is packed full of tons of meal ideas for you guys. These are just regular old meals that I've made for my family over the past couple weeks, and these are some of my favorite videos to film and share with you. So in today's video, we've actually got 11 meal ideas. I'm going to be making some breakfasts. I've got a delicious eggs Benedict on the menu. We're going to be making some beef flautas, fish cakes. I'm going to be doing a salmon meal prep, some spaghetti, pork tacos, and then I've also got an awesome ginger soy fish recipe. So let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start out with breakfast for dinner because on this night, my son had a friend over and I just kind of wanted something easy that everyone would like. So I started out cooking some hash browns. I'm also going to make some pancakes. I've kind of been trying to use up a lot of the ingredients in my freezer and pantry, and I had a package of pancake mix that I thought I would use up. So I went ahead and mixed those up. So we're going to do sausage, eggs, pancakes, and some hash browns. So a little bit of something for everyone. I also had this sausage roll. This is just a breakfast sausage roll. So I'm going to form this into patties. Obviously, you can purchase pre-made patties, which is normally what I do, which obviously takes a lot less time, but this is what I had on hand and I wanted to use it up. So I'm just going to crisp those up in a skillet. And I also like to get my hash browns nice and crispy. Once I fried up the sausage, I put it into a pan with a paper towel in the bottom, just so some of the grease could drain off. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my pancakes. So I'm making my pancakes in a skillet. I do have a griddle pan for my stove. However, sometimes I don't always like to get it out. Just because it's kind of a pain to wash, and sometimes a skillet works just as well. I'm also going to make some scrambled eggs, so I'm just mixing those up with some salt and pepper. And a little known fact, but I actually love making pancakes. I just find it so satisfying. Pancakes were kind of one of those things that took me a while to figure out how to do, but once I figured it out, we're good to go. So we've got our hash browns and our eggs and our sausage and our pancakes, and that was our super easy dinner on this night that everyone really loved. Okay, so next up, I'm just sharing an easy breakfast. So I'm frying up some eggs in a skillet. I also baked some Grand's frozen biscuits and made a packet of sausage gravy mix. Those biscuits are definitely my favorite, and we had some sausage links on the side. So that is an easy breakfast you can make on the weekend. Okay, for this meal, I made eggs Benedict, which is something that I love. I always order it when we go out to eat for brunch or breakfast. And I started out by making some hash browns. If you've never tried the Lawry's seasoning salt on your fried potatoes or hash browns before, I highly recommend it. It's something that I always keep in my spice cabinet, and I find that I reach for a lot when seasoning potatoes. I'm taking a shortcut and using a packet of hollandaise sauce. I also wanted to use this because it does cut down on the calories in this quite a bit, because you only have to use a couple tablespoons of butter. And then while that was cooking, I went ahead and poached my eggs. So I just have a little bit of simmering water. I swirl it into a whirlpool, crack the eggs in, and let those go for about 6 minutes. I crisped up some ham, put those on my English muffins. Then I added the egg and the hollandaise sauce. And just to be a little bit extra, I did decide to add some paprika to the top too, but obviously that is optional. And I always love having hash browns on the side of eggs Benedict, so I can dip a little of my hash browns in the hollandaise, but this was delicious and it hit the spot. Okay, so next up, I wanted to use this pie crust that I had in my refrigerator. This is just a regular packaged Pillsbury pie crust, and so I decided to make a quiche. I will link this recipe that I kind of went off of down below. I believe it was a Skinny Taste recipe. So I wanted to make a quiche, but I wanted it to be a little bit lower in calories than the traditional quiche Lorraine, which has lots of cream and bacon. I also got these pie weights, which helps you bake your crust, blind bake your crust in the oven. They're super useful. I'll also link those down below. And while the crust was pre-baking, I went ahead and mixed up the filling. So I've got some eggs and a mixture of skim milk and half and half, and I'm just going to go ahead and beat those together. I did decide to use my hand mixer, so it was a little bit easier just to make sure that all of the ingredients got incorporated. And quiche is a great thing too that you can actually make ahead of time, and it heats up really well either in the microwave or the air fryer. I also crisped up some bacon, and I'm just cutting that into small pieces. Of course, the dog always wants what I am cooking. And then this recipe also called for Gruyere cheese, which I did happen to have on hand. So I shredded up some of that, and I'm going to add that to the quiche as well. So after the crust is done blind baking with the parchment and the pie weights, you can just kind of remove those to a bowl and let them cool before you put them back in the container. And I'm going to sprinkle my crumbled bacon over the bottom of the shell, go ahead and add my Gruyere cheese, and then you just pour the egg mixture over the top, and that is it. Obviously, you can make a different flavored quiche if you wanted. You could add ham and broccoli and peppers and different kinds of cheeses, but after this baked up, this is what it looked like. Totally delicious. I went ahead and portioned it out, and this is what we had for brunch on this day. This was a weekend, and then I went ahead and boxed up the rest so we could have that for breakfasts throughout the week. It was delicious, and I definitely recommend this particular recipe. Okay, so next up, I'm making a HelloFresh meal. I like to get their meals every once in a while just for kind of something different, and I got a couple of these over the Christmas break, so I'll link their site down below. I do have a pretty good coupon code if you guys want to try them out. I do recommend them. This was a beef flautas dinner, and it was actually really good, so I crumbled up the ground beef and cooked that with some taco seasoning and onions, and they also provided some flour tortillas, so I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle those with a little bit of olive oil. These particular flautas are actually baked instead of fried, so they're a little bit healthier, and I'm just brushing that olive oil on the flour tortillas on both sides, and then go ahead and put your filling in the middle. You can actually do this with chicken filling if you wanted as well, but this beef filling was really good. I was actually surprised. So anyway, just go ahead and roll these up, and you're going to bake them on a baking sheet in the oven. I did some with cheese and some without cheese because my daughter did not like cheese in hers. This was actually filmed before she went pescatarian. Some of you guys know that my daughter decided to go pescatarian a couple of months ago, so that has been an interesting transition. But I put these on a parchment paper lined baking sheet, baked them in the oven, and we had them with lettuce and tomatoes and sour cream on top. These were so good. I definitely need to make them again. Okay, so next up, Connor also had a friend over on this day, and I decided to make some fish cakes. So this is definitely a crowd pleaser. This is a recipe that I have in my cookbook. Basically, I just take any white fish and I put it on a baking sheet. I drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm using the Auntie No-No's seafood seasoning. I sprinkle that on both sides of the fish. I believe this is tilapia, and then I just bake that in the oven until it is cooked through. We're going to go ahead and cool that and flake it up, and then that's what we will use for our fish cakes. So once it is completely cooked through, it will be opaque and it will flake easily, and you just want to let that cool a little bit. And then I also made some salmon for those who wanted that instead of the regular fish cakes. Again, just trying to use up a bunch of stuff. I also had a box of mac and cheese in my pantry, so I cooked that up. I went ahead and shredded up the tilapia. I'm going to add some panko breadcrumbs and a little bit of mayo, or you could also add a beaten egg if you wanted to. And then I also added some lemon juice. At this point, you don't really need a ton of extra seasoning just because the fish was already seasoned, but we served this up with the mac and cheese and a salad on the side. Okay, so this is a dish I don't have a final picture of because sometimes I'm just cooking dinner and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying to film these clips. So on this night, we had spaghetti with meat sauce, which I did not get a final picture of. However, I wanted to show you how I made these garlic cheese sticks. So basically, I had these pre-made thin crust pizza crusts, and I melted some butter and I added in some crushed garlic, some salt, pepper, and a little bit of dried parsley. And I'm just brushing those on the crusts. I sprinkled them with a little bit of mozzarella cheese, and these just bake in the oven just like you would a regular pizza. And then you can cut them into strips, obviously just like you would cheese sticks. So you can definitely do this with any type of pizza crust you have on hand, and it's a great alternative to just making regular garlic bread. So again, with this, I cooked up some spaghetti and I heated up some meat sauce. This was probably a day when I was making some lasagnas for lasagna love, but I just have some ground beef in my Dutch oven. I sauteed that up and added my marinara sauce. And like I said, no final picture of this dish, but it was delicious and definitely something that everyone loves. Okay, so next up, I'm going to make some tacos. So I'm doing some pork and some chicken tacos. So basically I have some pieces of pork tenderloin here. I'm just seasoning those with some taco seasoning that I had in my spice cabinet on both sides. And I'm going to kind of let that sit and let the spice mixture soak in a little bit. You can definitely do this ahead of time, like a day or two ahead of time if you want a stronger flavor. And then I also had some chicken breast as well. I'm going to basically cook those up the same way with some taco seasoning. And this was great because basically on this night we did both tacos and burrito bowls, so people could kind of have whatever they want. That's a great way to always, kind of appease those picky eaters in your family by making a meal like this where people can kind of build their own tacos or nachos or burritos or burrito bowl or whatever they want to do. I did not use any oil in this because I am on a weight loss journey, so I'm trying to cut out the oil when I can. I did heat up a couple cans of pinto beans. I like to heat those up with some spices and salt and pepper, and that was for my burrito bowl. And then these are the pork tenderloins, so I'm just sauteing those up on both sides until they are mostly cooked through. And then I like to remove them to a plate. I just cover it with foil and let them rest until they finish cooking through. But those turned out really good. I'm also going to make some corn salsa just because I had all of the ingredients on hand. So I have a can of corn, and then I'm also going to dice up some red bell pepper. I basically just used whatever I had on hand in my fridge because this again was kind of a meal on the fly. And I did try to cut up the red pepper a little bit smaller just so I could have it evenly distributed throughout the corn. This was kind of inspired by, I guess, a Chipotle burrito bowl. I had just traveled the week before this and had Chipotle, and it sounded really good. But the corn salsa you can keep in the fridge, and you can use that for, you can use that for a lot of things. You can use it for burrito bowls. You can also dip chips in it. So it's a great thing to have on hand. I also squeezed the juice of a couple of limes in there. Definitely don't forget that. That makes the flavor really, really great. And then you could also add beans to this if you wanted to. I kind of wanted to just stick with the corn flavor, but you could do a black bean and corn salsa if you wanted to as well. I also had some scallions on hand, so I'm going to mince those up and add those to the corn mixture as well. And then we can't forget the cilantro, so I'm going to go ahead and mince that up and add it to the corn salsa. I also had some tomatoes on hand, so I'm going to go ahead and chop those up and get them into this as well. But this was actually great to have in the fridge throughout the week. I used it on leftover burrito bowls and dipped some chips in it as well. Okay, so I'm just finishing up my chicken, sauteing that on both sides and removing that to a plate. I will cover it with foil and let it rest until it is totally finished cooking through. My beans turned out really good, and then I'm going to go ahead and give the pork a quick slice. So I tried to slice this as thinly as I could with a really sharp knife, and this actually made really good tacos. And then I used the leftover for burrito bowls as well. It's something I don't normally think of, is to make tacos with pork tenderloin, but I'll definitely be doing this in the future because it turned out really good. And Adam really liked it as well. Sometimes he's like a person that gets tired of eating tacos. Like, I could never get tired of eating tacos. Are you kidding me? but he does sometimes get tired of it. And so this was a great kind of a switch up for him. So I'm adding the pork to my taco shells. You can see Milo staring at me in the background. So I'm adding those to the shells, and then I'll just go ahead and top them. You can top them with whatever you'd like. I'm going to top them with some shredded cheese and then some of that chopped tomato that I chopped up earlier. Adam likes onion on his tacos, so I'm going to add some chopped onion and then some sour cream. I also added a few sprigs of cilantro and then some taco sauce. Okay, so I served some of the beans on the side, and that's what he had. And then I made myself a burrito bowl with some leftover rice, and this was totally delicious. I would definitely will make this again in the future. Okay, so this next recipe is something I made previously a while back, and I had some halibut in the freezer that I wanted to use up. And so I decided to make it again. I'll link the recipe down below. Basically, it's like a ginger soy fish recipe, and then you can serve it with rice and green veggies on the side. It's really, really good. It's especially like really family friendly. So definitely recommend that. And right now I'm just cutting up some ginger and some green onions because that is going to go into the sauce with the fish. This recipe does call to mince the ginger rather than grating it. So just keep that in mind. And I really think this recipe would work with any type of white fish. You could also probably make it with chicken if you wanted to as well. I'm going to go ahead and mix up the sauce. So I've got some soy sauce, some mirin, some sesame oil, and then I'm going to season that with pepper and just whisk it together. I also added a little teaspoon of sugar, and that is going to be the sauce for the fish. So for the rice, I went ahead and rinsed that in my Instant Pot insert. I always like to rinse my rice because it makes it a lot more fluffy and ensures that it doesn't clump together. I just do it right in the Instant Pot insert and then just drain as much of the water out as I can. I personally don't have a rice cooker, so I just use my Instant Pot. I put it in there with some water and some sesame oil. And then I'm also making these seasoned green beans on the side, which they turned out really, really good. Here is my halibut. I seasoned that with salt and pepper, and I'm going to coat this on both sides with some cornstarch. You basically do this to give a little bit of a crispy coating on the fish, but then it also helps thicken up the sauce as well. So definitely try this. It's super good. I'm just coating the other side with cornstarch. I probably could have done this a lot more neater, but I am messy when I'm in the kitchen. And then I went ahead and started sauteing my ginger in some oil in a skillet. When that was brown, I removed it to a bowl and added the halibut. You can just saute that on both sides until it is cooked through. And then you want to add the sauce mixture and then basically just simmer that until the sauce thickens. And then you can add the green onions in at the end. Super easy recipe, like I said, and I highly recommend this. Add the ginger back in as well. And there you go. That's basically it. And then you can kind of just spoon some of the sauce over the fish so that it gets nice and saucy. And then on the side, I also cooked up some tuna steaks just because I also had these in the freezer and I ended up using them on salads throughout the week. But here's what the fish and rice looked like. It is totally delicious. Okay, so this is just a quick meal prep I wanted to show you guys. I had some salmon in the freezer that I wanted to get used up. So I'm just cooking this and I'm going to cook it along with some rice and some veggies. And this is a great meal prep that I can also leave in the refrigerator for Kira, especially when I go out of town and she can have it for quick lunches or dinners. So I'm just making a butter mixture to glaze over the salmon. So I've got some butter, some seasonings, some brown sugar, and then I've got my salmon here. So I'm just adding the glaze mixture to that and brushing it on. I'm going to go ahead and bake this salmon in the oven. And this turned out really good. I'll see if I can find this recipe and link it down below. My toxic trait is that I find recipes online and then I can never find them again, which is really actually why I like to print them out and keep them in a binder because then I never lose them. Same thing here. I'm making my rice in the Instant Pot with a little bit of butter. And then with this also, I'm going to cook up some mixed veggies and basically just make some little meal prep boxes. So once the rice was done, you can see that it cooked up nice and fluffy. I cooked some mixed veggies. They were kind of cook in the bag ones that cook in the microwave. I'm seasoning those with some butter, salt, and pepper. And then I just portioned these out into meal prep containers. So we have the salmon with the rice and the veggies. And this was a great meal prep for us to have during the week. Okay, so on this day, Adam cooked up some, don't come for me because I forget what this is called. I feel like it's maybe called picanha. It might be like a sirloin type of cut. I'm not sure, but he cooked it in the sous vide, and that's what we were going to have for dinner on this night. And so with that, I just decided to cook up some baked potatoes because that was super easy. So while that was cooking in the sous vide all day, basically you just have to cook that in the sous vide and then you can sear it at the end to get a nice crust on it. I went ahead and scrubbed up some potatoes. I drizzled them with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm putting those on a baking tray with some foil and seasoning them with kosher salt. And that's how I like to bake my potatoes in the oven. They turned out perfect and the skin is really crispy. And then when the steak was done, Adam went ahead and sliced that up. We had it with the baked potatoes and that was delicious. I love a good steak. It's probably one of my favorite dinners. On this night, I decided to make Doritos Locos tacos because I had the shells on hand in the pantry and it's something that I needed to use up. So of course I didn't have any regular tomatoes on hand, so I'm cutting up cherry tomatoes like a weird person, but that's fine. Whatever tomato you have on hand will work. And I'm also going to chop up some onion because Adam likes to have raw onion on the top of his tacos. So I just cut up a little bit for him. And then I also shredded up some lettuce that I had in the fridge as well. I honestly really prefer like iceberg lettuce shredded on my tacos, but again, using what we have, we're using this romaine lettuce. So I chopped that up and gave it a wash, and we're going to use that instead. Okay, so for the taco filling, I am just sauteing up some ground beef with some minced onion. I like to use the dried minced onion because it is less offensive to children who don't like chunky things in their tacos. I added some taco seasoning and some water and just let that simmer for a little while I was assembling the rest of the dinner. I went ahead and cooked my taco shells in the oven. I do like to do that so that they crisp up. Otherwise, if you don't crisp them up in the oven, I find that they're a little bit chewy. But this was definitely a good dinner. Everyone loved it. If you like the Doritos tacos at Taco Bell, you will definitely love these. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble some tacos. I actually had mine with the Quest protein chips, kind of like in a taco salad type thing, but everyone else ate theirs with lettuce and tomato and cheese in the shells. Really, really good. Definitely a crowd-pleasing dinner. You can also add sour cream if you want. So here was my bowl. Again, I used the Quest chips, but thank you guys so much for coming along with me today. If you want some other dinner inspiration, I'll have a couple videos linked on the screen right here. Thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.